Well, it's good to see you again. Many of you I got a chance to be able to say hello to and take some Q&A back and forth earlier this week on Thursday. But this is not about Q&A tonight. This is about Bill Bennett. So let me set some things in context. When I was in high school, Bill Bennett was my Secretary of Education. It just was. When I was in college, Bill Bennett was the drug czar, and I want you to know you were successful. I never used drugs. Though I would attribute that more to a great mom than a great drug czar, but she was grateful to have your backup on that. My wife, Cindy, and I got married in 1992, and in 1993, a book came out called The Book of Virtues. Now, my wife and I, in 1 year in, we didn't have any children. We waited a little while, but we determined in 1993 that we were going to buy a book of virtues so that when our first child was born, we would have it. Our first child did not come until 1996. But interestingly enough, I was talking about this speech, and our child now is 22 years old. She saw this book out and smiled and said, "I know that book." Because I used to sit with her on the couch and pop it open, and we would talk about virtues. Bill Bennett didn't teach my child virtues. Bill Bennett encouraged my wife and I that virtues are something that can be specifically passed on. To go back to the biblical foundation of the Shema, teach them to your children. When you walk along the road, when you sit down, pass it down to the next generation. He gave a generation of parents a specific way to be able to pass on virtues, and in a remarkable way, made virtues cool again. We may need a Book of Virtues version 2. Last year, I was in a conversation with the Vice President. And in that conversation with Vice President Pence, I just happened to say to him, just as in a dialogue, "What are you reading right now?" And the Vice President responded back to me, "Well, I'm in the process of finishing the last book in Bill Bennett's series, America, the Last Best Hope." And I thought, what an interesting statement from a sitting Vice President that's trying to begin to grasp again the depth of really our responsibility as Americans. And the Vice President of the United States is reading Bill Bennett's book to be able to make sure he soaks that in. I meet a lot of people across our country and across my state that complain about our culture at a coffee shop, in Sunday school classes, around the dinner table. They gripe about the direction they're going. I meet a lot of folks that say our kids don't know our heritage anymore, or our kids aren't living our values anymore. And they complain a lot about it. And then I look to Bill Bennett, who has those same complaints, who has those same concerns, but he actually did something about it. He moved from complaining about the fact that our kids don't know our history to writing a series of books about our history to make sure kids could know. He moved from complaining about the values in our culture to laying out a book of virtues to be able to encourage parents to be able to say we can teach our kids courage and responsibility and honesty and perseverance again. Bill, you didn't gripe about it. You did something about it. And a generation of parents and leaders are exceptionally grateful for that. He's a role model for a generation. And if you've heard his radio program and if you've interacted with him and the number of people that respect Bill Bennett across the political spectrum, you'll understand again Proverbs 16:7. Proverbs 16:7 says, "When you please the Lord, even our enemies make friends with us." Bill, I honestly couldn't think of a better way to be able to end a speech about you than reading back to you what you wrote to us. So from the Book of Virtue on page 643, you passed on This was the question that you gave to my kids and to me. And I state it back to you. You wrote to us, were the whole world good as you, not an atom better, were it just as pure and true, just as strong in faith and works, just as free from crafty quirks, all extortion, all deceit, schemes its neighbors to defeat, schemes its neighbors to defraud, schemes some culprit to applaud, would this world be better? If the whole world followed you, followed to the letter, would it be a nobler world? All deceit and falsehood hurled from it altogether, malice, selfishness, and lust banished from beneath the crust, covering human hearts from view. Tell me, if it followed you, would the world be better? Yes, sir. It would. Thanks, Bill.